I'm having one with Monty Nefero, and I'm going to put him in a crossface chicken, and he's going to go down right now. Yeah.
You want to have a good match, put me against Flair. And I challenge him right now. Don't wear the t-shirt. I won't wear one. Let's go out there and nail each other.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monty Nefaro, where we welcome Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Thank you.
Sir, we have to thank you. You gave us our start. You were our first real guest on our show when we first started off in that much smaller studio.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep. And we had Mexican.
Well, I dressed up for the occasion.
I know, you're looking good. You got the jacket on. You got the
First
sunglasses
time
on.
I looked like I just got off the beach in Florida with shorts and everything.
You just mentioned Vince McMahon. You probably know about all the allegations and the payments and things like that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that whole situation?
Oh, God, I feel, it's just any kind of thing like that is such a bad situation to be in. And I don't, be honest with you, I don't know what to think about it. I really don't. I don't know what to think about it. And
well, you had a close relationship with Vince at some point in your career.
Yeah. Well,
was he that pregocious? Is that a good word to use?
Flirtatious? Did you ever see any signs that, the guy was making out like a rock star?
Yeah. No, he was pretty coy about doing that, you know. I knew him really well back before his dad passed away and then Vince took over. And then once Vince took over and he had to do this, he separated himself from the boys. But we used to ride together and laugh, and we were friends. So, it's just I don't know what to say about it. I don't want to say anything really. I just feel bad that I feel bad for him. I guess I feel bad for the girl too. It's hard to say.
You feel the company's in good hands though now with Stephanie and Triple H? You feel confident in the future of the WWE?
Yeah. I think they're fine. Stephanie's smart. She's a chip off the old block, and Linda McMahon she'll be in there, and I can see Vince. He's going to be back there in the back, still pulling the reins.
So you still think Vince is around somehow?
Yeah, he'd be like,
That's great.
He'll be like Obama helping Joe Biden now.
There you go.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel though? That you're one of the pillars that created, like I don't think anyone could imagine it would become this billion-dollar corporation it is now, but you are one of the major pillars that built this organization. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, so I came in here in 1979, and before all that WrestleMania stuff, and it was great then. They were doing great business then, and they were starting to go to the West Coast and everywhere, and Vince was buying TV everywhere, and so I was at the beginning of that before WrestleMania 1, and when that came out, then bang, but I knew what was going on in the office a lot, and George Scott, who gave me my first break in Charlotte, came up and actually became the booker also right around the same time. He's the one that actually set me up in 1979. He brought me in, and I'm in Charlotte. I'm Flair's partner. I'm doing great. And he goes, we're going to send you to New York. New York? I don't want to leave here. And New York was scary to me, but it was really good. And Vince McMahon Sr. was such a class act. And he grabbed me and he says, we're going to give you a hold. It's called a figure four leg lock. I didn't know what the hell it was. And this is Senior I'm talking about. and he had me breaking everybody's leg. And I mean, talking about, he knew how to get somebody in the, for lack of better word, over or famous. Over in wrestling jargon is mean you're over. You know, you can draw money now. Everybody believes in you. Figure four, and he knew how to do that. So
Strange question. The move, as you just revealed, was, basically given to you with the idea coming through Vince Sr., right?
right.
Does the move go with you to the next territory without saying, hey, Vince, I'm still going to use this. It seems to be really good. Did you have to, is there any?
Well, no, because back then they didn't care. You know, he says, I'm going to send you back to Charlotte or wherever you want to go, and then I want you back in a year. You know, that's what he told me. So that made me feel good. So when I went to Charlotte, I used the backward suplex, and I used
The elbow.
the brain buster, the elbow. And I started using the figure four down there, and they said, hey, wait a minute, Ric Flair uses that figure four. So for a while, I didn't use it. And then George Scott, George was the booker still then. He says, go ahead and use that figure four. Flair's the world champion. He's gone, he's not even around here. So so I kept it. It became my signature hold no matter where I went. I was doing really, really good on the NWA Charlotte, and I didn't want to leave and come to New York. They brought me into New York because New York, they weren't drawing up here. What they needed was guys that could wrestle. I don't know. I'm not going to knock the guys that they had here, but they were poking fingers in the eye, and they were ball shots. I mean, it's all the shortcuts in wrestling, not making it look real, not making it look like a contest. And so Senior knew he had to change something. So I think the guy that came in before me, Kim Patera, was what they were looking for wrestling-wise. Then I came in with a wrestling hold, did the hour Broadway with Backlund right away. People would come up to me and say they'd never seen anything like that. Two guys wrestling for an hour long, to a finish. Nobody won, but they'd never seen that in New York. So he was building, Senior was building, trying to get it back to realistic wrestling. Something a fan could bite their teeth in and say, I know that's not fake. That's got to be real. Look at that. And back then, me and Tito used to hit each other hard. I mean, it's just certain guys that didn't want to work with me because I hit them hard, but I didn't hit them in the face. I wanted everything to be believable. I grew up watching Johnny Valentine, my dad, who was the stiffest son of a bitch ever. But he made the people believe. You're not trying to convince your opponent it's for real,
Right.
but you want everybody to believe it, and that's the way I got over. And that's the way I got over here, and the people still talk about the '80s and the '90s or whatever and the '70s because, it was competition. It looked like the real thing. The only we knew a lot of, I didn't plan my matches. I went out. I didn't want to talk about my matches. I went out. I knew what the ending was going to be, whether I was going to lose or I was going over. I like to just play it by ear, and I've been working, when I first came in here, I've been working 10 years. So if you don't know how to work by 10 years, you should go find another job. And it was all feeling, and that's the only way to make the people believe it's for real, is if you're just going off the cuff and making it. And it's got to be your opponent too. Backlund was a little hard at first, but after he got tired, he was easy to work with. Tito was a dream when they stuck me with him. And any of the other guys I worked with, it was
Do you consider
Jay
that?
Strongbow, I could have fantastic matches with him.
Do you consider the Tito feud your greatest feud ever?
It was the longest one. I would put it. Yeah, I would have to say yes.
About 2 years, that program?
It lasted actually for 3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So
He was such a beautiful guy. to
He
work
tells a
with.
story though that you purposely destroyed the belt so he couldn't have it, and it was a shoot. Is that accurate? And by the way, the belt's here. We found it in Tito's garbage. But
Yeah.
that's
Oh,
okay.
he might.
we took it.
That looks like it.
Yeah, we repaired it too.
They might have told him that, but they came up to me and told me to destroy the belt after I lose the match, and so I destroyed it. And they said they're gonna get him a new title, right? And it was a good thing for me because I lost the belt, so now I'm like a baby throwing a temper tantrum and beat the hell out of it, and then I leave. And then Tito sold it beautifully. He came in and he grabbed it and he looked at it and he held it like it was a little baby, and like he's crying and he's, oh, it was beautiful.
It was.
Now, did
We
you
had some
It
good
was.
direction.
did you
back
ask him for the belt afterwards to take it home? Like, who ended up with that
I
destroyed
should've.
belt?
He put it in his bag and left with it, and I think they knew he was going to get a new belt, but that belt, that'd be so great to have.
Man, those old school belts were
Yeah,
like,
I should have kept it.
oh my
yeah.
God.
Any thoughts on Ric Flair's recent last match?
Yeah, well, I didn't watch it, and it kept popping up. I get YouTube everywhere in my house. It pops up on my cable, my big screen, and I never did really. I started to watch it. I saw Jeff Jarrett look pretty good. Rick had his shirt on. I go, I ain't gonna watch it. He's got his shirt on. And I hate that. If you're so old you can't wrestle, you got to wear a shirt. And I heard he got tired. I just didn't want to watch it. Now, you want to have a good match, put me against Flair. And I challenge him right now. Don't wear the T-shirt. I won't wear one. Let's go out there and nail each other.
That would be.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I challenge him right now.
Now,
Well, let me ask you this: were you a greater? Well, we were talking about the last night's show, the greatest of all time. It was Hulk Hogan's birthday yesterday, and
Was it really?
yes.
Okay.
Would you consider yourself better than Ric Flair as one of the all-time greats?
I'm better than Hogan and Flair.
nice.
Yeah.
Tell us why. Why do you feel that way?
Well, Ric Flair's matches were all the same. And I used to put thoughts into my matches and try to mix it up, And sometimes we get repeat. There's only so many different things you can do. But, how many times you're going to watch him go hit the rope and turn around, go over the top, run down, come on, drop the elbow. How many times you can see it? That's every friggin' match he has. I like Rick, but I'm shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
I'm saying his matches are all alike. Mine, I couldn't take the bumps like Rick, but I don't think bumps are that realistic. Anyway, I tried to make my matches different. And as far as Hogan, he just had the ultimate push. Nice guy, had great interviews, big friggin' arms. He was just right for that time in the era. But as far as work and realistic and drawing money, I sold Madison Square Garden out 17 times. And I know that for a fact. And I think it's because of my believability. And Hogan had the major push, and he had his own deal, made lots of money. And so,
Well,
I think I'm better than both
let me
of them.
ask you about that. He got the major push, but could anyone, in your opinion, could anyone else have carried the WWE to? Because Hogan's the spark that created the WWE today.
The WrestleMania.
Obviously, you, right? The opponents, things like that. Could anyone else have done that besides Hogan? Could McMahon have used somebody else?
Well, I could have been the world champion, but I wouldn't want to, because I'm a heel, the bad guy, I wouldn't want to keep it. So he was perfect for that. But the reason I say I was better than him is I was just a better worker.
Yeah.
But me and Tito used to go out. I mean, they had 3 towns a night running in the 80s, in the 90s. And me and Tito could go main event in Detroit and go to Boston that same day and sell both Boston and Detroit out with just the Intercontinental belt. We didn't need Hogan on the card. We didn't need anybody on the card. We could do it ourselves. I mean, you got to have an undercard, but Hogan. So that was a big feather in our cap for drawing, and I can't draw nothing by myself. I have to have a good opponent like Tito. He was fabulous.
So what you're trying to say is the other wrestlers probably happy being on the B card with you guys because
Yeah,
the draw is
yeah,
the same as a Hogan card.
So I was a B card, but we still sold out, and we made money. And I'll listen, Greg and Tito over there. Don't worry about it. We'll have Hogan go over here, and then I think there was even three cards on the weekends, and they probably still. Wrestling was just hot back then, but we could. The Intercontinental Champion could. I myself could sell out without Hogan on the card.
Key word being worker. You've mentioned it a couple of times. Who to Greg Valentine is the greatest worker in the history of pro wrestling?
Besides myself,
There you go. Well, we got the obvious. I mean, who's second to
well,
you?
no, there's guys with different styles, and I guess like Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Interesting.
He did a
Okay.
phenomenal job in getting over, and the Rock. Rock had a lot of charisma, plus he knew how to work. I mean, there's a lot of other guys that could work good. That's just off the top of my head.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on guys?
I don't watch the current product.
Okay.
I can't really. I don't want to say anything bad about it, but I'm just past that. I watch WrestleMania, and that's about it. Speaking of selling out by ourselves, without Hogan, Beefcake and Valentine could go anywhere against the Bulldogs, and no tag team had done this. And tag teams were just a supporting card, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'd be underneath, say, Hogan or whoever in the main event. We were the real main event and went everywhere and sold out against those Bulldogs.
In New York, that match closed out WrestleMania 2.
Right.
Very upsetting, by the way. Very,
Right.
very upset about
I
that
was
whole
upset
situation.
about it too. And we were supposed to get the belts back, but it didn't happen,
Why not?
Was
I remember
Dynamite...
going to the office and complaining, when are we getting
Yeah.
the belts back?
Yeah.
And Vince goes, we're going to do a round robin. Oh, by the way,
Round
I got a
robin?
check here for $125,000 made out to you, your first doll check, your action figure check. So I'm looking at that, and then I
don't need the
forgot
belts.
why I was
Who cares
there.
about the belts?
need
I'm
the
done.
belts.
Yeah, I got this, so I'm going to go buy me a new car.
Was Dynamite Kid as much as a prick as everybody says he was? Or?
Not to me, but he
wouldn't
was a prick.
well,
yeah.
I wouldn't expect him to be to you. He
So
probably
were you
know.
there with that whole thing with the Rougeaus? Like, what do you know about that whole situation?
Okay, so here, I was in Miami, and I think we weren't working with the Bulldogs there that night. I think it was some big deal, like a Royal Rumble out of Miami, and or maybe it wasn't. But anyway, I'll tell you what happened in the dressing room. Rouge was sitting there unlacing his shoes, and the little guy. Not
Dynamite.
Davey Boy, but Dynamite
Dynamite.
comes in. I'm sitting right there next to Rougeau. He comes in and he slaps Jock twice right across the face. You piece of you f***ed up the whole match. You son of a bitch, get up and fight right now. And Jock just sat there like this, And I probably would have done the same thing, like, wait a minute, let me go, Well, if someone hit me like that, I would have hit him back. But, I mean, he was, like, stunned. And I'm watching this, I go, what the f***, And so about a month later, or maybe it wasn't that long, maybe it's 2 weeks later when we're doing a TV somewhere, and we're in the lunchroom, and we're all coming out, and I'm one of the last guys in there, and all of a sudden I hear this, BAM! And Rougeau was waiting for Dynamite Kid to come out, and punched him, and everybody said he had a bunch of coins in his hands or something to make his fist real hard, punched him in the face, and knocked about 4 teeth down his throat, and took off and left. Now, about a week later, I'm flying over to Europe, and and they're going with me. I didn't think Dynamite was going to come, and he's just smiling. He had 3 teeth missing, and that was bad. That was bad. But I don't know if Russo. I know he said, he attacked him and waiting around the corner because he had been embarrassed. I don't know if he had a roll of quarters there, but he gave him a hell of a shot and knocked 3 teeth out.
You mentioned you were tight with Junior before he got the company from his father.
Right.
Was it stressful for you, your friendship with Junior, as he became the big shot and took over, and now you're not getting
It was stressful because he didn't say hi to anybody, and he just walk on through, And it used to be Captain. We used to have these big dinners after Allentown, and everybody would be invited. Not everybody, but I was there. Graham Wizard was there. Sergeant Slaughter was always there. Gorilla Monsoon was there, and a couple other guys, give or take a few. And we'd all have that big dinner, and Vince Senior would be at the head of the table, and Junior would be right here, And Captain Lou, about halfway through, would get really drunk, and he'd start laying it in on Vince Jr. I'll tell you what, you guys better watch out, because if anything happens to that old man, that punk kid is going to take over, and if you fall down in front of him, he's going to walk right over the top of you. In other words, he hasn't got the heart that the old man, but I don't want to say that, he's still a chip off the old block. It's a different thing. Maybe Vince had to separate it, because he was taking over, but he didn't have the heart that the old man had. Vince Senior used to come up to me and he goes, when I had to, remember the name Stan Stasiak?
Sure,
Yeah.
sure,
He
of
said
course.
he'd been here forever, and I had to let him go. And he goes, I couldn't do it. I couldn't fire the guy, but I finally had to do it. He's telling me this story out of the blue. And he was such a good guy. And, maybe Vince is a chip off the old block. I'm sure he's got a good heart too, but he'd send Pat Patterson out to tell you you're fired or something. But yeah, so, but I know.
How did Pat handle all that, though? That had to be tough on Pat too, right?
What's up?
Like, so he
Letting
sent,
people go.
He'd have to
Being
send
the
Pat to
mouthpiece
be
for-
the mouthpiece all the time. Was that difficult for
That
Pat?
can't be easy.
Yeah, okay, so, but I think in later years they just send you a letter and say you're fired.
Just give you the old FedEx.
On your wedding day.
Yeah, on your wedding day.
Yeah, like CM Punk.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah.
we all know that AEW is coming around, and again, you against Roddy Piper, dog collar match. Everybody knows that, and from being up here,
Right.
we would read it through the
PWI.
the magazines, all that stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yep,
holy cow,
after.
look at this. But I'm just asking your honest opinion. I'm sitting there watching you, and they're announcing this match, and you're sitting in the
Oh, for
chair.
AEW?
You're kind of waving to the crowd, yeah. And I'm
Right.
thinking to myself, does he really do you really want to see them try to replicate the iconic match like
You think
that?
they
I
did-
mean, what was going through your head?
Did they do you justice in your
Okay,
mind?
so I'm watching it and trying to analyze it, and I know they keep have the cameras hitting me, and stuff, and I'm trying to sell it, while I'm watching it. I thought they did an admirable job. Is that a good word?
Mm-hmm.
But you can't duplicate what me and Piper did. Come on, you can't do that. I don't know, did they bleed or anything? I can't even remember. But I don't think the chain was a big, heavy chain like we had. But I was there, and I thought they did a good job, and it's a shame that guy died not too long, Brody Lee,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
after that.
Mhm.
And Cody Rhodes, he's a chip off the old block too. So I thought it was, I would give it a B+. But as far as compared to me and Piper, no.
Was that your greatest match of all time in your mind, or is there something else?
Actually, the matches that me and Piper had leading up to that in different spots around the Carolinas, you can catch them on YouTube every now and then. I thought they were better. I mean, they were some jam-up, jelly-type matches, but when you got a chain in there, it's hard to work with that thing. But I think we did a great job with it. I guess as far as brutality and iconicness, that would be the greatest match that either one of us have been in, other than him being on top in WrestleMania 1, and then I think me and Brutus had some fantastic matches against the Bulldogs, but not WrestleMania 2, maybe some Saturday night's main events. And yeah, so
It's funny you brought that up. I was just thinking about that because I thought you guys were going to win the belts back that night because I think
Yeah.
it was a 2 out of 3 falls and you
Right.
took the first fall. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, thank God they're going to win the belt back.
but yeah.
So back to Piper real quick. Today's wrestler, you're a huge guy. You are a wrestler. Today's wrestler, 150 pounds, 160 pounds, whatever the case is.
Now I'm a huge guy.
Now,
This is a problem.
Now, Piper wasn't a really big guy, I'm assuming,
No.
right? How was Piper able to present himself that you felt he could take on Andre the Giant and beat Andre the Giant? What was it about Piper?
He was believable. Why?
Well, yeah, because learning how to work, you learn how, when you get in the ring, because I wasn't the biggest guy either. You just learn how to project yourself. And Piper had that, that sneer and that look and believability, and he was a Golden Glove boxer, so he was really a tough guy. But he was only about 225, 230 pounds soaking wet, maybe 235. He pumped up, but he wasn't a big guy. But he had good-looking punches because of the Golden Glove. He came up the hard way. He came up in L.A. like I did, and he came up the Mid-Atlantic. The Mid-Atlantic, he really got together and learned how to mix his boxing with his wrestling. I always kind of tried to do the rope-a-dope thing like Muhammad Ali, and tried to mix boxing with wrestling, because it gets, you take the shots, and just wrestling period is boring after a while, laying down a hold. But you get the guy down a hold, make the people come back, then you go back to fisticuffs again, So I think Piper was a great worker.
You've had some really awesome tag team partners over the years, but can I ask you a little bit about what I feel like on paper, this might be the greatest team of all time, and it seemed to be like a rocket ship that you passed by. Ric Flair and Greg Valentine. Memories of that very special tag team in my mind.
The only thing that I didn't like about being Flair's partner is sometimes he would forget I'm on the corner waiting to be tagged in.
Really? Okay.
He would get into his match so much. Now, that's not a real knock. And then I went to him, I says, man, you need to tag me in more often. And so we got to do that. But he was so used to being out there maybe by himself, he'd forget I'm over there. What makes a tag team good is the tagging in and out. So a lot of times we had some great matches. I think, that could have been a dream team too. But he went off on his own and became the world champion, and I came up here to New York. So I would have to say Beefcake was my best partner.
I
There
agree.
you go.
I agree with you.
You
I
love
agree.
them. There you go.
And number one, because you got to have a captain, and
Mm-hmm.
I was the captain, and Beefcake, he followed right along, but he learned so good. He looked so good. We both didn't have blonde hair. He had his own look, and I
Yeah.
had my own look.
Right.